Hey guys, thanks for bearing with me. I know I'm going really fast, so I'm trying to keep these videos really short. So here's the carbon cycle. If you are looking for a refresher on that, it is this video. And actually, it goes with the surface to area volume ratio, which was on the last video. I did not point that out. So check that one out. And it is by Michael Clark. So they do a little kind of home experiment, just kind of looking at that surface area to volume ratio. So back over to carbon cycle refresher, explain the carbon cycle. And this is by Moo Moo Math and Science. You've probably seen some little POW tunes by them before. So check them out on carbon cycle. So carbon cycle is responsible for the largest transfer of carbon dioxide from atmosphere, consumed during photosynthesis, incorporated in the phytoplankton. This should seem pretty basic. Most carbon returns to surface waters when phytoplankton die. Some falls into the ocean depths. So if it does not get uptaken by these by bacteria and that microbial loop, then it will sit in sequestration, we call it, and where it's just harbor, like we talked about, carbon sitting in trees and just being sequestered there. That happens at the bottom of the ocean as well. And we don't want to disturb that because we want to keep our carbon in that state as much as possible. All right, so carbon cycling, this is kind of an interesting idea. And I don't know, just a crazy little, in 1988, John Gibbons is quoted as, "Give me half a tanker of iron and I will give you another ice age." So this is a idea where we can maybe sequester more carbon, and by speeding that up is by adding iron to the water, or really feeding plankton. So iron acts as a fertilizer, and then the phytoplankton will form the base. We know the marine food web, and then obviously you end up with an algae bloom. Well, we know that algae blooms aren't always the greatest things, but it can decrease carbon. We know that. It'll photosynthesize like crazy. And by adding all this iron, which is available in large quantities, that will cause that growth, right? But like we talked about, it might not work because it may be less efficient than it is at first, as it first seems. So it raises a host of new worries and possible consequences. And so here is a list of those. I won't read them all off to you, but we just know that it can have some detrimental effects. But just know that that is an idea and it's out there. And I have a little video for that as well. That is here, called Ocean Seeding, is what it's called. And it's by Oceaneos, I think is how you pronounce that. Ocean Seeding, a new technology that can save marine life. So check that out if you're curious. Otherwise, just know that may be something of the future. We are always trying to solve problems, and sometimes it starts off with an idea that is probably absolutely terrible, and then eventually it gets worked through, and it can be can work. We know that. All right, so I'm going to just go through these really quick. We should have a pretty good understanding of these diagrams here. What that plankton can be: zooplankton and animal plankton, or phytoplankton. We have some good examples. We just did an ID lab, so we could add this list, right? Add to that list. And here's some phytoplanktons, some images of them. And yeah, they like to be in the sunlit areas. I'm not totally sure why this is in here at this point, but here's our foraminifera and radiolarians as our some examples of these plankton that can be zooplankton, animal-like, but also these guys. Yeah, so anyways, well, I'm just going to skip through that. And so our short-term marine organic carbon cycle, so the biological pump. So this is where you can kind of look at it as, so this is basically getting carbon to an uptake nutrient area, and also can sequester carbon. So the process in which CO2 that is fixed in photosynthesis is moved to the deep ocean and stored. So carbon can be moved by decomposition, vertical migration, and mixing occurrences. So you can take a look at the chemical equation that takes place. And again, we're trying to get as much as we can to deep ocean